Welcome to an all-new episode of the Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast. This is Corey Richmond, joined by Jason Brooks. Jason, welcome back from your little mini vacation away from Chicago. How was your time off from the Windy City? As we get ready.
Yeah, it was good. Got to see a lot of people who I love and care about. Got to pretty much catch up on wrestling and say it. So yeah, busy week for me, and looking forward to talking wrestling with you today.
Yeah, it's a little weird one. I thought that we were going to come on today, talk about the couple of returns that happened over the last week and a half, and about an hour before we started, we had one of those big developments. WWE announced that Bayley is going to be out for approximately 9 months with an injury. Mike Johnson of PW Insider has confirmed it's a torn ACL. For the last 2 years, she's been one of the focal points of the women's division in WWE main roster, and has been really, really good with pretty much everything that the company's had her do. So I mean, this is a real big hit for a SmackDown roster that had 8 people to begin with. I hope they're able to do something with her while she's gone.
Yeah, I think this will give other people a chance to step up. I think Bayley was going to lose the match anyway, so they were going to have to find something for her to do after this. I could see Sasha returning pretty soon after this anyway. I could have seen Bayley actually taking time off after this match, as it were. She had to run with Bianca. They've had this long feud, but an injury sucks, and for a performer at her level, once you tear your ACL once, it's easier to tear it again. So obviously, we're hoping that she has a quick and speedy recovery. People are like, "Oh, she might not be back for WrestleMania." It's like, well, let's see. So hopefully, she has a quick and speedy recovery. She's obviously one of the best performers, male or female, in professional wrestling, and we hope the best for her. But again, this means someone else is going to have to stand out. Do we see a Carmella get a push? Do we see Sasha come back and, they have a rematch at SummerSlam? So it'll be interesting to see where they go with this. I didn't expect Bayley to win anyway, but I do think that I Quit match was going to be a blast. So that, I guess, is the part that also sucks, and it sucks for Bayley. So hopefully things work out well for her and she has a quick and speedy recovery. But Zelina Vega's return, they released 18 million women. So, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do there. But now let's see if someone else steps up. Let's see if they give someone else a chance or bring someone from NXT, because they have some women on a roster. I don't even know really many of the women on SmackDown, but they don't have much star power. They don't have someone who can challenge Bianca Belair and have it be like, okay, they might win. Like, there's like Carmella and Sasha, and like that's kind of it. So yeah, we'll see what they do.
Well, we're going to bring up the Vega return in a little bit, but it is going to be interesting to see who's able to go and take the mantle, and do they just go with the usual, people that they've gone with forever, like the Carmellas and the Sasha Banks, or we've heard that Shotzi Blackheart has done a couple of dark matches, so she could be on her way up, and I think she could be an interesting fit to take over, as a mainstay. I mean, there's other people in NXT who you could say are more than ready. I mean, Frankie Monet, I think, is a main, maybe not yet, but she's a main roster type of gimmick. I mean, and, you've got that Io Shirai, who I know just won titles, but she, her next step at some point, as much as we fear, would be the main roster. But, Bayley's 32 years old. She's worked a really tough schedule, like I said, over the last couple of years. Like we mentioned pre-show, that she's, had some dangerous matches. I mean, she's not, wrestling in, before, house shows. So, I mean, her body was able to go and be good in other aspects, but this injury is, is a tough one, and we hope that she comes back soon. But I guess, Jay, my question on this for you is, we have Money in the Bank coming up in basically a week and a half. WWE on their Twitter, I don't know if this was an accident, but they wrote, who will fill in for Bayley on Money in the Banks? But, some people have made this reference as maybe they bring back, Sasha Banks early, which, who knows? But if it was you, do you just disrupt your Money in the Bank with, putting a Carmelo or a Liv Morgan or someone in there, or do you rush back Sasha Banks? Or what would you do?
I'd put a Liv Morgan. I'd maybe give Liv Morgan a shot. Like, who cares? Why not? They've had her win some matches. They could do some type of elimination match. She's already kind of proven herself in terms of these wins. Again, it's a pretty big stage, and she's not particularly great in the ring. But you got to see what people do. It's not like Bianca Belair had these amazing 5-star matches in NXT. So maybe you give her a shot and see how she does. So, I'm all for giving people chances, giving these performers chances. So why not? But I could see them going the Carmelo route. And we also have to throw in the fact that this is the first show with fans, right? So, that's also going to be kind of a thing. So it's unlikely they go to Liv Morgan route. I suspect that they'll go the Carmelo route, but you have Carmelo wrestling, Money in the Bank, and then wrestle for the title. I'm not sure. They, or maybe they do a surprise and someone from NXT comes in. I don't see that being the case. I would suspect Carmella, or the hot shot Sasha to the spot, which I think would be not a good idea, but WWE sometimes loves to rush things.
And we have a couple of ideas from our Wrestling Life chat group here. Brian Drake from the Fantasy Football Hustle says, sounds like the perfect spot for Bayley. And Felipe from the Total Basis podcast, which you can check out most Sundays. Good afternoon, gentlemen. It appears the women's revolution is over in WWE with a smile. Of course, he's kidding on that. But what's your thoughts about, would you rush back Becky on basically a week and a half notice? And I guess my point of this, do you
rush back Becky? What are these people? What is Drake nuts? Rush back Becky. She just had a child. Either you don't rush back this star performer. Do a storyline. Give her a chance for the fans to get ready for her. Do some vignettes. She just suddenly appears out of nowhere. And then that means she's got to win. So then you're burying Bianca in the process. No. This is a time to elevate somebody new. What did we say? Bayley's 32. Sasha's probably around the same age, maybe a little younger. We know Charlotte's around that age. Becky just had a child. We know that they have to have some other women really shine. We've seen Rhea Ripley get a big push, Bianca Belair get a big push. So I think now's the time to give somebody else a shot. Because you can have Becky come for SummerSlam. I mean, I could see her coming for SummerSlam for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see your point there. I mean, and I guess the other thing I would wonder on this is, do you keep this as an I Quit match, or because the heat?
No.
Over.
Absolutely not. You can't. An I Quit match is for like a blood feud, which this has been. She's gonna go against Carmella, and it's like, oh, we're gonna have an I Quit match now. I mean, now should they do it? No. Will they? I mean, it would not surprise me in the least if they did. I think it would be a really bad idea, though.
Yeah, and Brian Drake, fights back a little bit. He goes, ratings are in the toilet. Becky's the biggest female star. She's showing videos of herself in shape. Vince wants to play that card.
Yeah, but I mean, what's the difference between 2 weeks? If Bianca beats, Liv Morgan, Carmella, and then right after that, Becky Lynch makes a return, or maybe Becky Lynch is one of the last month, she replaces Carmella in the Money in the Bank because Carmella's wrestling for the title, and then appears at the Money in the Bank and wins that. I think that's a better move than, oh, now she's gonna wrestle. We didn't, here's a surprise. I don't know. I think wrestling is about stories, right? It's about telling stories. And I think hot-shotting one of your biggest stars to just show up and wrestle for the title out of nowhere is just not a good story to me.
I could respect that. And I guess last thing on this from the chat, Felipe went and said, my Women's Revolution comment was because Jason said WWE released a lot of female wrestlers. I think he said 18,000 women were released.
That's an approximate number. Approximately 18,000 women were released. I mean, it was, what was it, like 10, like 15, 10 of 10 women?
I think like
Probably.
30 women. Yeah.
It's a lot of women to release when you don't have an especially deep roster. So, but yeah, no, we'll see what happens. But yeah, it is a shame for Bayley, because I think this would have been a hell of a match for her to go out on and to maybe take some time, and now she won't get that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we'll look, and you could, hopefully one of us will be around tonight in regards to watch SmackDown, and maybe we'll be able to give a little bit more information. And because of course you could follow us on Twitter and Instagram at WorkShootPod. One of us usually is around there, looking at these shows, and if something interesting happens, we'll throw in a comment or two. But Jason, the other big thing, at least on SmackDown, and we wish we had better stories when it came to SmackDown, because SmackDown, with Roman Reigns, is a very interesting product right now, is even for the third or fourth time, depending on where you look at it, Jimmy Uso, who has been part of the Roman Reigns Edge storyline, had his third or fourth DWI in the last 3 years. Now, neither me or Jay, I would think, are going to be super judgy on what people do. But you know what, like on the Jackie podcast, you don't know Jackie podcast, a lot of times I make fun of the fact I don't tip on Uber. But, you work for a major company, and the idea of the fact no one says you can't drink or have a good time. But you know what? Get this guy an Uber when he leaves these situations so he doesn't screw up his career. I mean, Jay, you may disagree with me or have a different thought on this, but the idea that, these guys are paid pretty well. His wife's also in the company. I'm not saying the guy's got a drinking problem, but he's got a responsibility problem in regards to when you go out drinking, take an Uber, don't get behind the wheel and jeopardize your life or someone else's. And the way things have gone, how many more? I mean, yes, he's related to Roman Reigns, is the biggest star in the company, but at some point your time's going to run out, especially what you see what they're doing with everybody on releasing people. Jimmy Uso's got to be smarter in his actions.
Yeah, so this is his second DWI in 2 years. He had a DWI in 2019. I think there was some issue with him and Naomi last year.
That one never. There were no charges put in.
There were no charges, but whatever, police contact. In 2013, I believe he had a DWI as well.
Okay, so it was a little.
So I mean, right, that's a lot of DWIs, and clearly it's one of those things, right? If he has had three DWIs and gotten caught 3 times, it is very likely he has done that more, right? So clearly he has some issue, and his blood alcohol level was way over the limit. I know the blood alcohol, it's 0.08. I think his was 2.02. So it was way above the limit, right? And so, and again, I'm not Mr. Moral Police. I don't like trying to pretend to be, but I do think man, we got to show some responsibility. We got to do better. We got to do better. If you're having a couple of drinks, get an Uber, figure some stuff out, get someone to drive you. And to continue to do this time after time. And Corey, he is blowing the biggest opportunity in his career. He won't have a bigger opportunity than this in his career. They were supposed to get a big push at SummerSlam. I'm not exactly sure what it was going to be, but I think they were going to be kind of a defined stable with Reigns and the Usos. And now what do? You put Roman Reigns in a bad spot. You put your brother in a bad spot. You put Naomi in a bad spot. You put the company in a bad spot. And I don't want to see people lose their jobs, but can you have someone continuing to get DWIs? What if he killed somebody? What would you do? What would happen? So it's just so irresponsible and so dumb. And I don't know. I don't know if you're the WWE, what do you do? If he was, churning out the bottom of the roster, if he was, Ricochet, I know Ricochet is going to be in the Money in the Bank, but if he was someone of that ilk, he wouldn't. There's no way. If he was on 205 Live, there's no way he'd still be on the roster right now. He would have been released yesterday. And I guess he's backstage at SmackDown. You know, what we've heard is that WWE officials are really, really upset with him and really mad at him, which obviously makes sense. But man, to blow this kind of opportunity is just it's insane to me. It's insane to me. He should be ashamed of himself. He really should be. He should be really mad at himself, which I'm sure he is. But maybe, Corey, the other thing is this guy needs help. You know, maybe it's a thing where he really, really needs some help. And hopefully he gets that help. You know, I think that's one way they can save this without releasing him, to be honest with you, is if he goes to some type of, you know, alcohol treatment for a few months and kind of goes by the wayside. I think he'll be able to come back and be okay. But I don't know. I think it's just such poor decision making on his part.
Absolutely.
And what do you do if you're the WWE now?
I mean, I think it's a tricky situation. I mean, I think you have to. Maybe they won't, but I feel you kind of have to write him off TV tonight, and and then bring back, I guess, Jey Uso earlier than they most likely expected. I don't want to go and be the guy who says, the guy's had 4 chances or 3 chances, and now we just get rid of him. But I think it's just more of, you've got to go and tell Jim Uso that it's, you've got to go and be more responsible.
I think now it's not just you got to go be more responsible, because this is his second time in 2 years.
Yeah.
I think now it's either you go into a treatment plan or we're releasing you. I think now they've given him enough chances. They haven't released them. They've released people now this is your deal. This is the ultimatum we're giving you. And I think it's, one of those two things, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's a tricky situation, but the Fed's got to figure this out. Now, if it was you, would you write him off TV, actual write-off, or would you just take him off TV and be like, it's your actions have consequences and you're just gone for the moment? Because you kind of.
It's hard because they've been mentioning him so much, and how long can you do this? He's disappearing. So it's the July 9th, right? And SummerSlam is August 21st.
Right. Money in the Bank is next week.
Yeah, well, scratch Money in the Bank. So you could do maybe some 30-day treatment. And if he does that and kind of shows that he's better, you can put him in SummerSlam. Maybe that's what you do. But I don't, I think that he cannot be on TV for a while. You cannot have a guy just got a DWI a second in 2 years and it's like, oh, now he's back on television. I think it's such a bad look.
I totally agree with you. It'll be interesting what they do tonight on SmackDown. But Jay, I guess moving on to the story that I thought we were going to lead off with was the three big returns in the last basically, week and a half. You had Zelina Vega returning to SmackDown. You had Teagan Knox returning at NXT Great American Bash. Then you had Aleister Black debuting for AEW. Which one do you want to start with?
Yeah, Zelina Vega's pretty big surprise. They're all big surprises. I would say the Aleister Black one is interesting. And he has a chance to make the biggest impact. So yeah, let's start with that one.
All right, so Aleister Black, the former real name Tommy End, who was very big, on the Indies, and
is that his actual name, Tommy End?
I believe so.
That's a cool name.
It's Tommy something. But so earlier on Wednesday, he released on his Instagram a 3 or 4 minute mini short film introducing the Malakai Black character, which was interesting little video of him in a mental institution, and him basically breaking, and then on AEW he came out. The fans were chanting Tommy, so they knew who he was, of course, which is always a good thing. And the announcer, Excalibur, told us who he was, but he made his big return. Looks like his first feud will be with Cody Rhodes, and that's kind of how most guys when they first come in, they feud with. It seems like they've been feuding with Cody, so I think that's a good first feud. Hopefully, they could hold off to All Out, and that maybe be the match Cody versus Black. I think that could be a very good first feud for him. But I think the more interesting thing with him is the idea that, which has come out the following day, was that Dave Meltzer's and people of that ilk are saying that, which we've spoken about in the past, when people from NXT are released, they have a 30-day no-compete clause, and people on the main roster have a 90-day. But somehow there was a clerical error, and his was never extended to the 90 days. So he didn't have to wait until All Out, which I guess August 31st was when those contracts expired. But he was able to debut. I thought he had a really good debut. I thought the way they handled it with early in the night in the bull rope match, it was a bull strap match. Sorry, strap match. They had the lights go out, and they said, because of the weather and everything, I was affected. All of a sudden, the lights went out again, and that's when he debuted. I thought that was done pretty well. I think he could have a good impact in AEW, but I think it's gonna be really interesting to see how they progress. Does he lose to Cody? Does he beat Cody? Is that a way to get Cody off TV for a longer period of time? It'd be interesting how they handle it, but I think he's a really good signing for the company, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, he's a fantastic wrestler. His character was completely over in NXT. I think he was getting over in the main roster, and then they dicked around with him. I think he has a lot of potential. I think he's, a lot of these guys who got released are not going to get signed by AEW. And I think AEW's done a good job of saying, we're going to sign the big guys. They signed Leo Rush, but, he's retired. They signed Andrade, and they signed Aleister Black. And I think those are, and Christian Cage as well. Those are really good signings. Now, how are they going to fit all these people on these shows? I have no idea. Yesterday's show was really entertaining. I don't think the best match quality, but I thought it was an entertaining show. How they fit all these people into all this stuff, I have absolutely no idea. And make everybody shine. I'm not sure how they do that, but they're figuring it out. So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what they do with Cody. Obviously, he's kind of the gatekeeper. He's the main eventer. By the way, and you guys could tell me in the chat if you think I'm wrong. On the Wrestle Life trend. So Cody and Brandy had a kid, right? Great. They have a daughter. The daughter's name is Liberty. Do we think that Cody named the daughter Liberty for his gimmick? Liberty, America. I feel like he definitely named this kid Liberty for his gimmick. He's got the tattoo. He just I don't know. I don't know. Cody worries me sometimes, but yeah, I think it should be a good feud. I think let's see where Tommy End goes with this, because I think sometimes his promos are a little bit all over the place, and they need him to be focused in these promos. It can't be talking 2 minutes like the Ultimate Warrior promos in the 80s. Like, it's got to be kind of have a beginning and an end and kind of be defined. So let's see where that goes. But yeah, no, I'm definitely excited for the feud. I think it could be a good feud. I think, I think you have to have Aleister Black win. I think you have to have him win. They're bringing him in as a big time guy. I think you have to have him win. So, I see that being one of the all out matches for sure.
And I think, like I said, I think that's a good first feud. I think he will win. I mean, but unfortunately, the prior history of some of these guys coming in to face Cody hasn't always gone that way. I mean, Lance Archer came in with the first feud. Cody beat him.
Yeah. But no offense to Lance Archer. He's not.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean? He's not. I think, Lance Archer went to Japan, had a really good reputation, came in, has done a great job. I think he should have won more, but I think Black has a little bit more cachet. And I think fans see him as more of a big time guy, a guy who's always underutilized in the WWE, who has a lot of potential. So I think he does get a big push. I think the other thing is we are seeing the kind of beginnings of All Out, and I do like that kind of long-term storytelling that they're doing. So we are definitely seeing the beginning of All Out here.
Yeah, so we have a couple of comments in the chat. Alex Mercado, who is a great contributor every week when we do these shows. Cody doesn't need to go over, please. So that's definitely an agreement with me.
He does not need to go over.
he also wrote Archer is lost in the shuffle. I
Yeah.
agree with that, but you know what? I do think that it's his character, and we can also talk about this another week. But his character, I think, is I don't know if you remember back to the original ECW. There was the character called 911.
Yeah.
He almost feels like he's. I mean, I don't know if
But
it's
911 couldn't wrestle. That's why he had these. That's why he was his character. Because 911 couldn't wrestle, so he just killed people. They accentuated his positives. He was a big guy who could kill people, but he couldn't wrestle a long match. Lance Archer is really good in the ring.
absolutely. I mean, I thought and we can get into this later, but I actually thought that Dan Lambert, aka playing Jim Cornette, this past week on AEW, I thought his promo was really good, and
I thought we were gonna see like Tom Lawler or someone from MLW come out because he's been very involved with MLW, with King Mo and stuff like that. So I thought we were gonna see him come out for that. And he's been very funny in MLW. He does a good job. He does a good job. He's a good heel.
yeah, he's one of these guys who somehow is going to work for every single company, in the next couple of years. I mean, he was in TNA before that. He was, and I think he was Bobby Lashley's manager or one of his influencers back in the TNA days. Because he was part of his stable of in MMA. But Jay, we'll try if we have time get back a little bit more to AEW later on the show. But one of the other two big returns was Zelina Vega on SmackDown. Now, we heard a couple of months back that she went to the Performance Center to do some vignettes and different things. And we all thought maybe she's coming back. And I think part of that was when she was coming back, we thought maybe there was a chance Black was coming back. But what did you think of her return? And do you think it's a little weird that she comes back and she loses on her first night back? Or the fact she's a heel, it really doesn't matter?
Yeah, that one. It's a heel. She's a heel. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, and she like never wins anyway. I thought it was fine. I thought her return was fine. Yeah, I mean, I was surprised to see her return, especially with Black being in AEW. I thought it'd be a great opportunity for AEW to get another women's wrestler who could be a manager, maybe even work with Aleister Black. But she's back in the WWE. She goes. We'll see how long she's there for. I think she's great on the mic, as she always is, and I think in the ring she's adequate enough. Does she have a big impact, on the women's roster? I guess we'll wait and see. But I think she is one of those people with, Bayley unfortunately getting hurt, who might be kind of given the reins or given the opportunity because she can get herself over on the mic. So even if her match quality isn't great, if she's working with women who are pretty quality, then I think, she'll kind of be able to get over that way. So, good for her to return. And, one of the things that we've heard, I think from Meltzer, was that WWE officials, I guess, have apologized to Zelina Vega. And I also think she's back on Twitch. So I guess they've kind of figured that agreement out. So, good for her, getting her job back. And hopefully she stays with the company. They seem to be releasing everybody nowadays. So let's hope she stays.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I thought her return on SmackDown was fine. I mean, by the end of the night, I almost forgot about it because, middle of the show. I think it's interesting on what they do with her. I mean, she's in the Money in the Bank match. It looks like, they're setting up 14 different feuds for Liv Morgan with her, Liv Morgan with possibly, Carmella, Liv Morgan possibly even with Sonya Deville if she comes back, because she's basically the authority figure who's stopping her from getting in the match. So I think it's going to be interesting, what you do with her. I agree. She's gotten a lot better in the ring than when she first was. I do think what a lot of people have said, they wish that she wound up going with Black to AEW, as either his mouthpiece or Andrade's mouthpiece. But I think she's got a chance to be good, especially, and maybe she gets a chance now with the injury to Bayley. She could be one of those people who's on the SmackDown brand, who they now have to rely on a little bit more because they're missing one of their big guns. So that could be a good thing for a perfect timing.
Yeah. So we'll see if that's what they do and where they go with her. We'll talk about Money in the Bank. I'm sure I'll preview that, but I think there's a very good chance her and Liv Morgan win this Money in the Bank.
Interesting. I haven't really actually had a chance to think about it, who is, but the story they're telling, it could very well be Liv Morgan, or she gets in the match and she's ultimately screwed by Sonya Deville. But we'll talk more about that, in in the coming weeks. Excuse me. So just quickly in the chat, Alex with another thing here. Hopefully she doesn't end up like Lana, being punished for the sins of others. And also Jackie Endy from the You Don't Know Jackie podcast, has joined us. And of course, we can't allow this. Alex, don't put her over more than she needs to be. Putting in, You Don't Know Jackie in the chat. We'll give her props later on. But Jay, the final return was Teagan Knox, and this will lead into our Great American Bash takeover conversation. But we both discussed last week that we thought that there was a good chance it was either going to be her or Finn Balor with the return from the Battery. I'll be honest, I didn't think it was the greatest return. It felt a little bit clunky, to put it nicely.
I agree.
It's good to see you back. She's come back from, I think, three major surgeries. Hopefully, she can stay healthy and, still continue to be a key focus if possible. But what was your thoughts on her return? And do you think because she was in a dark match right beforehand on Monday, which kind of gave her the way she was coming back. But do you think the dark match was just to see if she was good? Or do you think we're leaning towards her, short return, have the feud with the Poison Pixie, and then move up to the main roster?
Yeah, I mean, she'd be a great baby face. And I mean,
she could be on SmackDown.
Both these rosters badly need baby faces. There's no baby faces on Raw except for someone named Nikki Ash.
Almost.
And then they have 18 million tweeners / heels, specifically approximately 18 million. And then SmackDown is just chock full of heels. So, and Teagan Knox is just a natural baby face. She's pretty. She's got a great story. She's got a great gimmick. So yeah, she'd be just a natural, really good baby face. Yeah, I think, you had this feud with Candice LeRae and bring her up to the main roster immediately. I think, she's had these major injuries. So it's like, listen, like either, it's going to work or it's not going to work for her. It's tough because I like her so much as an in-ring performer. I think she's one of the better in-ring performers, wrestlers, in the WWE. But I'm so scared of her getting hurt, and so I just hope she's able to maintain her health and stay healthy and keep those knees in check. But she's a fantastic performer. She's going to definitely help NXT, and she's going to bring something different to the women's division, kind of like that, white meat baby face that we don't see that often, I don't think. And so, we'll see. I think they could tell a good story with her and Candice LeRae. Hopefully Indy Hartwell doesn't get kind of lost in a shuffle with this Dexter Loomis nonsense. So yeah, we'll kind of see where things go. But good for Teagan Knox to return. I'm really happy for her that she's back. And, hopefully they do some good things with her.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's always a little bit hard to push somebody as far as you might because of, injury concerns of the past. But I do think that she can be a mid-level to maybe even a little bit higher babyface on a SmackDown, and maybe the reason
I think she could be. She can be a main. If Liv Morgan can get this rub, she's way better than Liv Morgan. She could absolutely be a main event level person on SmackDown. There's no doubt. Her in-ring ability. How many women on SmackDown in ring are better than her? Bayley and Sasha. Like that's pretty much it. So I don't know, but you're right. The injury thing is something that they have to be leery of. But what do you do? Not push her because she's going to get hurt again? You either push her
or you don't.
Give her the chance, or you release her. Like what are we doing here, right? So
absolutely. Well, and like I said, we'll continue to look to see how things go. So let's talk a little bit about NXT Great American Bash. I thought as an overall show, I thought it was a solid to good show. It didn't blow me away. I think if you were talking which of the two shows are better, Road Rage or Great American Bash was a better show. Absolutely. Totally admit that. And I know as the AEW smart mark or the fanboy, you expect me to say the other one. But I do think it was a really good show. But I don't know if this show, and I know Jay always says, I don't know if you know how to judge it. I just don't know if this show really moved the needle for me personally, thought it was good. I thought maybe it was a little bit of the return was kind of like whatever by the end of the night. But I thought Cole versus O'Reilly was very well done. I think it was better than their no holds barred match, whatever it was called. It's stand and deliver. Thought both tag team title matches were good. Maybe I expected a little bit more from Ciampa and
I don't think they gave that enough time. I think it was really good for the time they gave it, but I think it should have gotten a little bit. John Moore pointed out on ProWrestling.net.
former
I
guest.
feel like it should have gotten a little bit, former guest of the show. I feel like it should have gotten a little bit more time. So I feel like we kind of left something to be desired there. But overall, I thought it was a good show. I thought it was a solid show. The Cole O'Reilly match was awesome. It was a very, very good match. The tag matches were good. The match for the $1 million belt was a solid match. The Gargano Cross thing, Corey, they got to get this guy to go to the main roster. I mean, Gargano basically did the same promo that Cole did, but not as good. Like, how many times are we going to say, oh, you're made for the main roster and you can't lace my boots and you can't lace my, I mean, you can do that promo once, but you can't keep doing it. You can't keep going down the well. So, and does Gargano win this title? I mean, is the idea that Cross is going to go to the main roster and Gargano is going to win this title?
It almost feels like, and we've said this in the past, that the feud is Samoa Joe versus everyone. And I don't know if he's cleared or not yet, but coming out of everything that's happened over the last couple of weeks, I don't see Gargano winning. I think he's a stepping stone to set up a match with Samoa Joe. And I don't know if you, with the injuries and the concussions and everything else, if you can go and put the title on Joe right away. But it feels like you have your SummerSlam takeover in a little less than a month. I don't see them taking the title off of him yet. I could see Cross losing the title to someone else on takeover weekend at SummerSlam. But I think part of my problem is with not even Cross, but Cross, I think right now we can say is a full-fledged heel. It feels like all things he's doing is a heel. And maybe the reason why I'm not as into Gargano and the Cole, Cole stuff the promo was great, but it's heel versus heel, and it kind of doesn't do anything for me. And I think that kind of makes it a little bit less interesting. And like you say, the only reason why Cross would win this title right now is if you're going to, the only reason why Gargano is going to win the title is if you're taking Cross to the main roster. And it just doesn't feel like maybe with the gimmick and everything else, Gargano is the guy to do it.
I agree 100%. I think you made a great point about Samoa Joe possibly being a guy to take the title. I mean, here's the thing, Corey. We can't do this thing where we don't know if he's healthy. We don't know if he's healthy. If he's wrestling, if they clear him to wrestle, then he's healthy. Mm-hmm. It's like a player being hurt in a sport. If you're playing, you're healthy. That's kind of the way I look at it. You can't make an excuse that, he played hurt and all this bullshit. If he's cleared to play, he's going to play. If not, don't be out there. And with Samoa Joe, if he's cleared to wrestle, he's wrestling. You're going to do it, same thing with like Teagan Knox. If you have her out there, she could be the NXT Women's Champion or tag team champion or whatever. And so I think it would be a good spot for Joe. And we've talked about this before, right? NXT needs a star on the brand. It's still a very good show. It's still a good roster, but they need some star on the brand. And Samoa Joe is that guy. He's the non-wrestler, and you see it from the fans' reaction to him and just his presence. And it's not just because he's like bigger than all the NXT guys. Like, it's his presence as well. He just stands out. And so hopefully he's healthy and will be cleared soon, and he'll be able to wrestle for the title. But if he does, I fully expect him to win the title. Fully expect him to win.
Well, talking about stars and something that's been 50-50 with the fan base on what people thought about it, I put in our Facebook group, I think I even put on our Twitter, on that a guy who's just on a different level when it comes to NXT, and I think you even wrote the whole entire, wrestling industry right now. You had the segment of the Shane Strickland, sorry, Swerve Scott. I always forget his new name. Swerve Scott's Celebration Cypher, I think it was called.
Yeah.
What was your opinion on the segment? And I really enjoyed the segment. I think the only thing that I didn't love because I think it went a little.
It went way too long. They should have just rapped on the stage and then ended it there. I thought then they went to the ring and then they kept rapping. I'm like rap songs do not go this long. Like this is like a Metallica song. Like rap songs do not go this long. But it was too long, way too long. But it was dope. Like it was you just don't listen. Pro wrestling is very, very white. The powers, we love AEW. All the people in power there are other than Tony Khan are white. WWE, all the power people there are white. NXT, all the power people there are white. So you don't often see Black culture portrayed always in the best of light. That's kind of the way, that's the way that it's been for years and years and years. And New Day was one of I think the first acts to really break that. It wasn't like, oh, there's these Black guys, they need to be rapping. It's like, no, you can be Black and kind of be a nerd and whatever, right? And so now Hit Row is just doing it completely differently. They have a record. Apparently they have a legitimate record. I guess I should download this on Spotify, something to work out to. But it's just so different from what we see in professional wrestling. And that's not to say it's going to be great and everyone's going to love it. I don't know. I think, there's a lot of fans who don't like rap music. I think there's a lot of fans who maybe don't like Black people. So, or the Black culture and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see how it'll be received moving forward. But I think it's something that's innovative. It's something that's different. Wrestling is the same that it was in the 70s. It's the same heel versus baby face,
dynamic,
same type of dynamic, the same type of thing. And, we've had certain stables that have been different over the years. NWO, Bullet Club, DX, right? Nation of Domination. This is different. This feels different. This is different. You got a woman in there who's a badass. You got Top Dollar, who's a badass. Adonis, I don't think he could rap his whatever paper bag. That's why he's the DJ. But God bless him. But it's just, and Swerve, who can legitimately rap. So it's just a fantastic group. And I'm really happy for Swerve Scott because we know we've both been a fan of his for a really, really long time. And I'm so glad he's getting this opportunity. And that's why NXT is still my favorite show, because I just what they're doing, I think is what they're doing with this group, I think is so cool and so different. And they're giving them the chance to say, you know what, we're gonna let it ride and see how you guys do. And I really appreciate that they're doing that.
So two things here. One, there's a couple things from the chat. Felipe writes, rap songs don't last this long. Have you listened to a Logic album? I say I haven't, but Jay apparently got that joke. Yeah. And Alex writing, they even do that to Latino wrestlers with saying, with the stereotypes.
Absolutely. 100,000%.
I totally agree. Now, I guess the other thing, that made it a little bit weird for me was the idea when it went so long. Usually on all of these celebrations, which I think is a good thing that they weren't interrupted. It just meant that, it felt like more like a respect thing where they were just like, we're not going to mess with these guys. But when these segments go so long, you usually expect someone out there to come out and make a challenge and not just for the whole entire thing, especially when it's a heel group. And I think we could say they're a heel group, they're not exactly, so I mean, there's nothing there to say that they're the baby faces at the moment. And I think Swerve Scott
he literally cheated. He literally cheated to win. He's a heel.
But like I said, I think he's one of these guys, especially this whole group, that we're going to be looking at for the next couple of months and seeing their progression and see exactly how they do a lot of these things and what will work and what they learn from, things that may not.
And I mean, Corey, does Bronson Reed, is he gone? Is he already gone? Right? I agree with you. I expected someone to come out, especially like when they went to the ring. I figured they would do their song on the stage. And when I went to the ring, I'm like, oh, someone's got to come out and interrupt them. But the fact that didn't happen, Bronson Reed is not long for NXT, I don't think. So Maybe he'll appear. Maybe he'll be one of the. Are there still spots for Money in the Bank?
Yeah, it's SmackDown. We've got Cesaro versus Seth this week, and then they have one more, which will either be what they did on Raw with the 3 losers bracket, or they could debut, maybe a new guy, maybe a Bronson Reed there. So
There you go.
See what they do, and that is
Also, one last thing, Corey. I know we were talking a lot about guys moving up. Interesting that Karrion Kross specifically mentioned in his promo that he wants to be WWE champion and headline WrestleMania. I thought that was interesting to me that he specifically mentioned that. Now, who knows if they just kind of letting him go, if he said that on purpose because everyone thinks he's a main roster guy. But it was interesting that they had that line in there because rarely does any NXT guy in a promo mention the main roster. Just interesting to me.
Yeah, I agree. So let's talk a little bit about this past week, and if you want to bring up anything from last week, because we taped the show before AEW came on the air. But Road Rager, I thought was a solid show. I didn't think there was anything there that really stood out. I mean, the two favorite things from the 2 shows this week were non-wrestling things. I thought, like I said, the Hit Row thing, I think might be my favorite thing of the week in wrestling. And then I really enjoyed, the stuff with the Dan Lambert promo, which we brought up a little while ago. I didn't think anything on the show was particularly bad.
I really enjoyed the Darby Allin segment.
No, that was a really good segment.
I thought that was very good. I really like Carl Anderson's promo too. I thought it's hard because it's like they haven't had him do a whole lot. But they showed the footage with New Japan. They showed how kind of big of a deal he was.
Styles made an appearance on AEW. We can start those rooms. I'm kidding. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. It's gonna be interesting how they handle that next week with Moxley, who apparently now has a shaved head. Sorry to spoil that, but it's been on the internet. So
we know he's been losing it for a while. So this was coming.
This was coming. But another segment that I really liked was the guy who's might be the most over person in wrestling right now, besides Roman Reigns.
Hangman
Adam Page. That crowd, and I understand that you could say, and I don't think you're going to disagree with me on this, but you can say that, fans just want to go and be happy, and a lot of things are going to be given a chance during this time period when Evil Uno went and even hinted at who it might be, the chance for cowboy shit and all of that it was basically deafening. There was points in the night where the crowd didn't see super into things, but at that moment, Hangman Page, Double or Nothing, he felt like a star. One of had the loudest pops of the night. But again, he is the guy that, now you could really say feels like he should be the guy who beats Kenny Omega. And I just really hope they are smart enough with all of these super shows they're doing over this month to still hold off for that match at All Out.
Yeah, I mean, he's the top baby face in the company in my eyes. I guess you could say Cody and Jericho. So you could say Cody and Jericho. So I would give you that. But other than those two, Moxley. Okay, there's a few guys. But he's one of the bigger baby faces in the company. Let's put it that way. And yeah, I think it's his time. It's his time to win the title for sure. I like how they've done it where they haven't had him cut a promo saying he wants to win. There's been some nervousness with him, some trepidation with him wanting to challenge for the title. I think I like this story because, we see this with athletes, right? A lot of these guys have performance coaches. I don't know if anybody listening has watched like the F1 series on Netflix, but like all these F1 racing car drivers have a performance.
I was wondering what F1
F1 racing. All these guys have performance coaches who helps them mentally, helps them get ready for the races from this sports psychologist for all these teams, right? And so I think sometimes we don't think about athletes as people, and we don't think about these guys having their confidence shaken for whatever reason, right? And so I think we're seeing that with Adam Page. His confidence is shaken because he's lost to Omega in the past, the issues that he's had with the elite. And so I think that kind of factors into it. And I love that they're telling that story, that he's not like, yeah, I'm just going to go out there and beat him. He's not sure. And so, and I'm sure that's going to keep building, you know, toward All Out. So I think it's a tremendous story, Corey. And AEW does some stupid shit, but they really usually hit these long-term stories pretty well. And I think they're doing a very good job with Adam Page.
And I do, and this is one of our next things we'll talk about, but I do think it was very interesting that basically the day before the pre-sale went for All Out, we got the first taste of Hangman versus Omega. And I don't think that's, something that you could say is one has nothing to do with the other. So I mean, I think they're very smart on that. I do think, though, it's gonna be interesting how much interaction will these guys have before All Out. I mean, are we gonna have tag matches with the Bucks and Omega versus Evil Uno and Stu Grayson and him, or do we not have them touch for still like another month and a half? So I mean, I like the fact that we finally have a full direction, and you didn't have to be watching all the YouTube shows to know what's going on. We've finally gone to where we need to be. But what's your thoughts? Do you think that they can keep these guys separated for another basically month and a half, or do you think that's going to be like tag matches after tag matches?
The latter. I mean, there's going to be tag. They got to have the Dark Orders. They got to give them something to do, and they've been defending him, so they're going to have to be in matches. Paige is going to have to wrestle somebody, so you would assume that'd be in some type of tag match. Maybe it's I don't know. It could be Carl Anderson and Gallows and the Bucks against, Paige and a bunch of guys from the Dark Order. They could do different things. I hope they keep Omega and Paige away from each other in terms of having some match. I really hope they do that. I don't know that they will, but one way they could do it is if they had a tag match, they could have Paige beat Omega, and then that gives them the confidence to say, okay, I want to challenge you for the title. So there's ways they could do it, or maybe that, the Elite beats up the Dark Order so much, you feel like she has a challenge for the title. I think there'll be some event that happens that causes them to say, okay, now that this has happened. And I know they hinted at it a little bit yesterday. So I do think there'll be some physical interaction with them. I do hope it's not a match, but they do something that causes Paige to either build his confidence up or say, like, forget about the fact that I don't have a lot of confidence. I want to defend my buddies and I need to fight you for the title. So we'll see. We'll see how they decide to do it.
So a couple of things here. I apologize to Jackie that, I wasn't putting her over earlier because apparently, Corey, are you going to get the Moxie cut? No, I don't have that much self-confidence to go skinhead on the group.
I think the bald look, I mean,
it works for some, not for others.
But I mean, like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Nope.
I mean, you may as well just, you're lying to yourself here.
Yeah, exactly.
And in my opinion, I mean, it's going. I mean, just.
So anybody who's going just to go bald, is that your theory?
I mean, you're going.
Oh, thank you.
So if it was just light up there, maybe you keep it up there. But it's going. No. Because you don't want the Hulk Hogan thing. Once the top totally goes, it's gonna look real bad. So either you kind of get rid of it now to get on top of it, because what's there is gonna grow back, or you do the what is it, keeps thing? It's the hair thing to help you grow your hair.
Plugs?
No, it's called keeps.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's called keeps. I don't know how long I'm gonna have this for. So who knows?
All right. So the last thing on AEW quickly, which a lot of people, and speaking of people who most likely are a little bit older, you had the Jericho MVP. Jericho, versus one of the MVPs of the company, MJF, one of the true heels still left in professional wrestling.
Yes.
And this is funny, just totally off topic, but MJF, the only person who basically badmouthed the Jacksonville fans after we didn't get a chance to talk about that video, which I thought was a really good video at the end of last week's show. But he went online and was like, the sooner I could get away from the Jacksonville fans, the better. So I mean, everyone's praising the last 18 months, and of course, he's just hamming it up as a heel. But what was your thoughts on their interaction? And do you agree with me that the idea of the four people Jericho's gonna have to face to go and get the match are the four members of the Inner Circle? Yeah,
I would think so. Makes sense. I I enjoyed their interaction. Jericho really played a cool. Jericho's been rocking the Jays lately, so that's been an interesting change for him. But no, I enjoyed their interaction. MJF is just, I mean, he's just, yeah. We've talked about Reigns and how much I've enjoyed him, but it's no disrespect to MJF. He is just an incredible on the mic. I mean, he's a generational talent. He
Yeah.
really is. He really is. So yeah, no, a great setup for whatever this match is gonna be. And now I'm gonna say this, and people are gonna get mad at me. Jericho is 50 years old. He is not the Jericho of 1997. His matches sometimes fall a little short in terms of match quality. So him wrestling 4 guys, how long is that going to take? How long am I going to be there for? So it could get a little ugly. So we'll see how they choose to really figure it out. But yeah, stipulation makes some sense. I feel like you should have made it harder. Like, like you have to quit AEW if you don't win. I feel like they should have had some more stipulation other than you got to face these 4 guys and beat them. But, I mean, it is what it is. So yeah, we'll see how they go with that.
I want you to. I just put in our private chat. This is what Felipe wrote. So I think you would. I think you should read this.
Those hair restoration medications mess up your libido. I'm sorry if I have to pick between my hair and my ability to get an erection without the use of medications. The choice is pretty obvious. I mean, I don't have experience with those medications, but I would completely agree. If they say keeps your hair but does not keep your ding dong up, then clearly you got to go with getting rid of keeps. No keeps for me. No keeps for me. So hey, Corey, do your thing. But
Yeah,
but
so
here's what I'm gonna say: if that top goes, do not do some Hulk Hogan bullshit where you got just the sides. Get rid of the whole thing. That's the only thing I ask for.
I got you, and I got it. And I think my forehead's big enough to looking at the camera right now to actually play a movie on. So I understand. I can see the problem. But Jay, like I said, I thought both shows were solid this week, and I'm just giving more fuel to the fire for Jackie Endy and Instagram posts for this episode. But let's see. Let's talk about the idea of everybody's coming back. WWE, some of the shows are selling pretty fast. Some are taking a little while, but it was in less than an hour. And I understand that's a little bit skewed because there was a pre-sale the day before. But same thing, those pre-sales basically went instantly. AEW All Out September 5th in Chicago, 11,000 plus seats is sold out again. So that when we went 2 years ago, it sold out, and record time. This time it also sold out. What's your thoughts on AEW for second time in 3 years selling out the show? And do they kind of need to go to bigger venues if they're going to sell out like this?
Yeah, I don't know what their deal with Chicago is. So it's interesting, right? So they keep saying like we're going to Austin or we're going to Chicago, but they're not actually in the city. So they're not at like the United Center, which I believe has more capacity. And even in Austin, they're not actually in Austin. They're in a city outside of Austin. So it's interesting that they're not actually in the actual arena, like in the actual city, a little bit outside. I think that they're fine. I think you'd rather sell out a small place than have empty seats in a big place. And they're also a very young company still. They're still working on that. They're still working on doing the Allegiant Stadium shows. But also, Corey, they're going to be at Arthur Ashe Stadium in Queens, right? So that's going to be a very big show. I'd love for them to be at MSG at some point. They're going to be at the Prudential Center, which is going to be a big show. So I think they're working their way there, but I don't think we need to rush the progress. I don't think we need to have them be at Tampa Bay Bucks Stadium yet. Let's let them keep getting their feet wet and keep building an audience, and they'll get there eventually. But I mean, Corey, listen, there's a reason why I moved here. Chicago is one of the best wrestling cities in the country, one of the best sports cities in the country. And people here really care about wrestling and care about sports. And so that doesn't surprise me. They're going to sell out. And now it's gotten to the point where, and I think it's great that they're just going to have All Out, it sounds like, in Chicago every year, because, this is where it started.
Mhm.
This is where it's, did I live here then? I don't know if I lived here then. I might have.
Okay.
But I might have I think I just moved. Yeah, I just moved. But anyway, this is where it started. The kind of birth of All Elite Wrestling. So, the idea of Cody and the Bucks saying we're going to do a show in Chicago and we're going to self-finance the show, and obviously they did great. And I think Tony Khan saw that and BTE, and he's like, shit, I could do a company based on this. So, and they have, and they're very successful. So, I think it's great for AEW, and it just shows how much their business continues to progress, which is great for the wrestlers and great for us as fans.
Yeah, and we got a couple things in the chat just quickly. Alex Mercado writing, they mostly would, only sell out, like this in the big cities, which I can totally get. And Felipe wrote, also keep in mind, Vince McMahon still has a stranglehold on these larger arenas to be the exclusive wrestling show at these stadiums. So it's going to be interesting that, can they sell out, the biggest stadiums in, Chicago, or, if they ever are able to do what, ROH did with New Japan a couple of years ago with the Garden, could they sell out the Garden? I mean,
yeah,
the only time we'll see. So
I agree. And those guys bring up some good points. The one thing I would say is, Tony Khan is the son of Shad Khan, who owns the Jaguars, right? So he has ties in the NFL. So if they do big stadium NFL shows, you would think he'd have to have. I think part of the reason why MLW's been successful is the relationships that Court Bauer has had with these television networks. A big part of the reason why AEW is successful is because of the relationships that Tony Khan has had, partially due or primarily due to his dad's connections because of the NFL. And so, I think, but I'm not ready to do these. Sometimes bigger shows are a mess in these big arenas. So let's just keep it where it is and enjoy it where it is, and enjoy this for what it is for now. We don't need big stadium shows yet. I'm all set on big stadium shows for right now anyway.
yeah, and just so everybody knows, and I actually spoke to Felipe, who lives in Chicago. We are actually tentatively right now, we have the tickets. We will be at AEW Dynamite on September 1st. So we will get a chance to see AEW again. We were unfortunately not able to be one of the lucky people to get tickets for All Out 2 years in a row, but I'm sure that Dynamite will be pretty special. Jay, before we move on, just quickly, I thought about this. We had the debut of the former Aleister Black this past week. We still have 3 big more shows. And especially with the fact that the first round of WWE cuts officially be available next Wednesday, do you think every one of these weeks, do you think we get like a big surprise appearance? Or do you think that this was first show with live fans, not in Jacksonville? Want to do something cool? I guess, my question generally is, are we going to continue to see surprises over the next month, or was this like a one and done thing, just like you must watch on Wednesdays?
They're going to have to do something for Rampage. So I would assume one of these surprises is saved for Rampage. So I think that happens. Tony Khan, I do believe, said in an interview, from what I've read, that there's going to be more surprises coming. So Tony Khan seems to like surprises. So I think we're going to continue to get more of these surprises coming. So I would say we'll continue to get more of them as we continue to go along before All Out.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, there's still some big names. We got the Chelsea Greens of the world and people like that. So we'll see when or if they start coming.
And Coy, my question is, we had. Do we have one women's match on the show yesterday or 2 days ago? We had the mixed tag match, right?
Right.
So, they have this Britt Baker Nyla Rose feud, which I've enjoyed. Britt Baker, I think, is just a complete stud on the mic and has been really, really tremendous. But the other women aren't really doing much. Clearly, they're putting over Statlander, and I think she's going to get a run here at some point. But they're not really doing a lot with a lot of the other women. So, Tay Conti hasn't been on in a while. Now, maybe they're on Dark or Elevation. I don't really know. But they haven't been doing a lot with them on, the main shows. I wonder if they do bring in some women to kind of get that rolling again. Or if they go back to kind of like, listen, we got these major shows, and when we have these major shows, we don't have women on them, really. So I wonder, but if they can bring in a Chelsea Green or a Peyton Royce or a Billy Kay, some bigger names to kind of help out that division.
Or Mickey.
They need it. They desperately need it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the women's division has done better, but I agree they can use a little bit more life. But
Corey didn't have one match on the show. They didn't have one match other than that mixed tag match. That was it.
You're right. You're absolutely right. So I mean, a couple things here in the chat. The Iconics, where one of the first cuts free to sign elsewhere. From what I've read, it's Wednesday. It's this upcoming Wednesday. So I brought up, Dynamite, and then you most likely will see quite a few of them on Slammiversary, and they've even, without saying it's going to be a new person, they did on Impact TV this past week say that Deonna Purrazzo will be facing someone, an unknown opponent, which I think is a very good chance it's either Mickie James or Chelsea Green at Slammiversary. But Jay, I don't know if you know about this, and we'll start to wrap up after this. Have you heard about this thing with the Iconics and Buddy Murphy on the idea that even when their 90 days are up, they may not be able to sign them
because of work visa. Yeah.
Work visas. I mean, that's
yeah.
a really interesting thing that, if we had more time, we would talk about quite a bit today. But any quick thoughts on the situation on the work visa situation and how this might affect some of these people, joining companies?
Yeah, I mean, you have to. I don't know the work visa thing because I was born in the United States, but I know that it can be like a complicated process. A buddy of mine moved from Australia and got a work visa, and he's married now to an American woman. But I know that it's a pretty complicated process, and if they fired you, you wouldn't have your visa anymore. So you've got to reapply. And so he's got to work. They have to work at a place, and then I think they have to reapply for the visa. So now I think the thing with Peyton Royce that's interesting is she is married to an American. Well, no, that's right. He's Canadian.
Canadian, yeah.
Oh my God, that's right. So, yeah. So they're really a mess. So I'm not. I don't know. That could definitely be pretty complicated. I hope it's figured out. I love Billy Kay, but she's not great in the ring. Buddy Murphy is fantastic. And Peyton Royce has still hasn't tapped into her ability completely yet. I think she was kind of getting there and starting to get there, but I think she's got so much untapped potential that I think if she would have stayed in NXT a little bit longer, I think she would have hit it. But she just didn't have that time, unfortunately. And was released before she really reached her potential. Again, WWE, we already know they don't know what they're doing.
That is true. And I guess one last comment. I love you, Alex, but unfortunately, both of them are married. He wrote, "Marry an Iconic, Corey." So if it was available,
Billy Kay's available.
No, she's not. She's married also.
Billy Kay's married.
Yeah, she was. She actually said that on the. I think it was on the Renee podcast or on another interview. She on the Busted Open Radio. When they interviewed her, she mentioned that she's married to somebody outside of the wrestling industry. So
unfortunately, I'm gonna look this up while we talk. Go ahead.
But Jay, like I said, we've discussed a lot of interesting things today. You want to go and let people know how they could follow us on all the major social medias and a couple other things?
Sure. So we are part of the Great Life Group podcasts. We're usually on Thursday, but we just change it up when we feel like it, I guess. So Monday we've got Dong City with Henry and Vince, kind of a more standard traditional baseball podcast between the sticky stuff and Trevor Bauer and baseball's a mess right now.
A little bit.
We've got the Audible on Tuesdays. Corey was a guest host a few weeks ago. Training camp starting to ramp up. Thursdays, you've got us, Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast. You've got the Step Back with Jacob and Leon on Fridays. We've got the NBA Finals, Let's Go Suns, plus 1600. And Sunday, we've got Total Bases with Felipe and Sean. So, which is more of a fantasy show. So, a lot of great shows, all great guys to listen to. And, baseball's heating up. Basketball's obviously heating up. And you've got the NBA draft after that. And then football, obviously, is going to be in full swing here within the next month.
Absolutely. And, usually there's nothing on Wednesday, but Jay, there is a podcast, a comedy podcast of the ages, as you sometimes say, which falls usually every other Wednesday. You remember what the name of it might be?
You don't know Jackie. You don't know Jackie. Jackie Andy, Jackie Rachel, Jackie Corey. The comedy podcast for the ages.
Not Jackie Corey, but I appreciate the love anyway. We just put out, after many weeks of talking about it, the second episode of why Friends is the most overrated show in the history of television. Not maybe those are my words, not everybody else. But if you listen to the podcast, you'll hear a lot of interesting points of view on that and other subjects. We're coming close to episode 100 in the next couple of weeks. Hoping Jay is available for episode 100. Not exactly sure what we're talking about in episode 99. There's some ideas that are floating around, maybe some Netflix shows that might be going on right now, other topics, but make sure to go and follow to find out more. But Jay, last subject of the day, we've spoken multiple times on the fact that fans are coming back, all these shows are coming back. But this weekend, we'll have the return of MLW with the tapings for the Battle Riot and some other things that we don't know about yet. And then on Sunday, which is a little bit weird because usually the Ring of Honor pay-per-views have been on Friday nights, but we have Best in the World with ROH with, don't know if our buddy Rocco, who you can check out from a couple of weeks back, our, I believe, half-hour plus interview with him. Very interesting character. Be sure to check that out. But Jay, what's your thoughts on the return of MLW and Ring of Honor?
Yeah, so I don't have the cards in front of me, so you might have to enlighten me on that. I know with Ring of Honor, because I just watched the show today, we've got Bandito against Roosh, which I think should be a great match. I do think Roosh is a bit overrated. Bandito, I don't think has really any chance to win, but Bandito is just a fantastic performer, so it should be a good match. We've got an interesting Jonathan Gresham against Mike Bennett. Mike Bennett and Maria throughout the first pitch at Wrigley Field yesterday, which was interesting. Good for them. I don't know if anybody knew who the hell they were, but who knows, right? So good for Mike Bennett, kind of getting a spot in a pure match, which I think could be interesting. Other than that, I don't know all the matches on the card, but I think it should be a pretty good show as far as MLW returning goes. I'm happy for them to return. They're on Viceland. Or Vice TV.
And BN Sports, which they said that sorry to interrupt you, the Battle Riot will be free on BN Sports in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. All right. So Vice, it'll be live and then it'll be on BN Sports. And what about YouTube?
I believe YouTube as well. That's also will still be going on. So that's
okay. All right. Yeah. So good for them. And MLW's been doing it right. They got David Richards there. I think they've got a couple of luchadors who are making their appearance. So yeah, I think it should be a pretty fun weekend of wrestling. Sunday night, the only thing is I think the NBA finals are on. Ugh, man, they picked it, but they couldn't go on Saturday because of the big UFC pay-per-view. So they were really, they were screwed. They were screwed no matter what. I think maybe if they did, I think the show's like right around the time NBA finals are. So, okay, tag match, PJ Black, Brian Johnson against the Briscoes. Okay, who cares? Lethal against Brody King, whatever. Silas Young against Josh Woods, last man standing.
You're not interested in Lethal versus Brody King, Foundation versus
that could be interesting. Last man standing with Silas Young and Josh Woods could be good. Tony Deppen against Dragon Lee. Tony Deppen he's not bad, but I think Dragon Lee should win that match. EC3 against Flip Gordon. Okay. The trios tag matches got Shane Taylor Promotions, Dak Draper, Dalton Castle, and Eli Isom. They've done a nice story with the three of those guys, Dak Draper, Castle, and Isom. So that should be a fun match. World title match, Foundation against Violence Unlimited. Obviously, they've done a nice job with that story. Pure title, Grisham against Bennett, and then the world title, Roosh against Bandito. So I don't know. We'll see a lot of crazy title changes and a lot going on. But let's see if, I think Ring of Honor, what they need to do with this show, it's the first show with fans that they've had. They need it to be a big show. And it needs to feel like a big show. And they could really use a return, a debut, something big to happen. I don't think you can end this show and just have it be Gresham wins keeps the title, Roosh keeps the title, and nothing else happens. Or there's like some stupid brawl at the end. So yeah, we'll see where they go. But I mean, it's definitely a good show. It looks like a very solid show.
I think the perfect ending for this show would be lights go out after the main event, Final Destination starts to play, and because of the agreement between ROH and New Japan Pro Wrestling, you have the return of the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. Will it happen? More than likely not. But I think that would give this company a lot of buzz. And I think that would be really cool that, you have Bryan Danielson on possibly the shows in LA that are coming up in the next couple of weeks. I mean, he's a full-fledged free agent. He can go anywhere he wants. I mean, there are rumors that, he could come back or not come back. I mean, but Jay, do you think if that happens at the end of the show where he's either challenging Rush or Bandito for the title, and that's your last image, the return of the American Dragon?
That'd be incredible. That'd be incredible, obviously.
Is it going to happen? No, but
No, I think he's firmly WWE or gonna retire. I just think he's been there for so long. He's made a ton of money. His wife's made a ton of money. Now we got Japan issues again with COVID, their state of emergency. It's like, what's he gonna do? So, anything is, as Kevin Garnett says, anything is possible, but I don't see it.
Well, we spoke about a lot of interesting things this week. Just want to thank all the people who joined us in the Facebook group today. Felipe, Alex, Jackie, Drake, who joined us. And of course, check out Drake's podcast for all of your football needs, Fantasy Football Hustle. And, check out You Don't Know Jackie, where we get closer to episode 100. But Jay, I think we covered a lot of cool things. And our usual ritual, I'll let you end off this marathon of a show.
I think we're done here. See ya.